Hey everyone. Uh, let's talk about some shifters of supply. All right. Now, before I get into those specific shifters, I want to make sure that you understand kind of demand goes down, supply goes up, demand goes to the dirt, supply goes to the sky. They're opposites in the direction that they go, but when it comes to shifting, they both increase to the right, decrease to the left. Right? I don't know that I can say this enough. Increase to the right, decrease to the left. When we say the supply increases or the demand increases, what we're saying is at every price, people want more for demand. On supply, an increase in supply means at every price, people want to sell more. Now, you might be sitting there and you might be like, wait a second, I thought people sold stuff to make money. So why would people want to sell more if the price didn't change, right? If I'm saying at every price, people want to sell more, well, that's what I'm going to go over with you in a minute. But first, I just wanted to make really clear. If demand increases, it increases to the right, not up, to the right, because it's the x-axis that we're shifting on, because it's quantity that's changing, not price. So we're shifting along our x-axis. So if demand goes up, we increase to the right. If supply goes up, we increase to the right. If supply goes down, we decrease to the left. Demand goes down, we decrease to the left. That's pretty much how things are going to work almost all year for us. That we're going to be shifting on that x-axis, and it's going to be increase to the right, decrease to the left. Now in unit 3, we've got one model that sometimes goes right, sometimes goes up, it goes in, goes out. It's a little bit different. But for the most part, we're going to be shifting right and left all year long. All right. So let's talk about these shifters real quick. The first shifter of supply is resources, and resources and technology are going to be production shifters all year long. We're learning these supply shifters right now, but it's going to be all year long. We're going to be talking about what it means to produce stuff, which is basically just means to use resources, and the price and availability of resources, technology, those are going to be super important shifters, not just through this quarter, but through quarter 3 as well. So anytime the price of a resource goes up, the supply of stuff made out of that resource is going to go down. Just because it's more expensive to produce, so you're going to lose some profit. So supply is going to go down. If resources get cheaper or they're more abundantly available, then supply is going to go up, right? So we've seen this, with coronavirus. We've seen this huge. In the last 6 months, we've seen all kinds of shortages of various things because the resources used to produce those things have been unavailable, mostly labor. And so we've seen, all kinds of, hard to get things that are normally not that hard to get. So that's price availability of resources, very important shifter. Second one, number of sellers, not very important shifter. I'm not going to go over that in great detail. Basically, if there's more sellers, we're going to have more supply. If there's fewer sellers, we're going to have less supply. That's it. It really goes with one of our microeconomic models that we're not going to be getting into, because I'm preparing you guys for the macro test. So you don't need to worry about number of sellers too much at all. The third one is technology. Technology is going to be a shifter all year long of production. Basically it's going to, when we go to produce stuff, it's going to be what resources do we have and what technology do we have to use with those resources. If technology improves, supply is going to increase. It's pretty rare that technology goes down, but it could. If something caused a loss of technology, that would decrease supply. Our fourth shifter is taxes and subsidies. If you don't know what a subsidy is, it's the opposite of a tax. So it's like where the government pays for part of something to try to get people to do more of it. For example, if the government decides, if the government wants us to have more clean energy, one of the things that they've done for a few years is they've subsidized solar panels. So you buy solar panels and the government is going to pay for part of that. So it makes it basically, makes people want it more. Now that would be kind of a demand subsidy. In Econ 101, entry level econ, all of our taxes and subsidies are going to be on supply. Although in the real world, taxes and subsidies could be on consumers or producers. So like a sales tax is on consumers, whereas like a per unit production tax is on producers. In our class, it's all going to be, on producers. So if the government decides, they don't want people, doing something, let's say that, government doesn't want people buying guns, right? Because there are, number of people who get shot and killed every year. One of the things the government could do is they could put a tax on guns, make them more expensive, right? If they put a tax like on gun producers, they said like every gun that you make, you've got to pay $100 to the government. Well, all of a sudden, profit goes down because they've got to pay that money to the government every time they produce a gun. Profit goes down, supply goes down. Or if the government was like, you know what, we all need to defend ourselves, we want everybody to have a gun, they could put a subsidy on guns. And the government could come in and say, hey, gun producers, every gun that you make, we're going to give you $100. Well, now profit went up on making guns. And so we're going to see the supply of guns increase. So taxes reduce supply, subsidies increase supply. The last one is opportunity cost of alternative production. And this is, basically for anything that's produced, producers have other options of what they can do. So if you're a farmer, for instance, right, and you've got a field, maybe, you're trying to decide what you should grow. Well, your decision whether or not to plant like something like alfalfa is going to depend on the price of hay. That if you could grow, something else, wheat, for instance, or something like that, well, if the price of wheat is going up, then that makes the opportunity cost of growing alfalfa higher. So what you might decide to do is you might decide to stop producing alfalfa and start producing more wheat because it's more profitable. So if we've got things that take similar resources and producers can switch from one to the other, right? So like, restaurants all the time, maybe, you're running, I don't know, you've got like a Vietnamese restaurant that produces pho, and they could really easily switch and they could become like a Japanese restaurant that produces ramen. It's not that different. The resources are mostly the same. And so, if all of a sudden you start seeing that these ramen restaurants are making a ton of profit, and you're like, we're making pho here and we could just really easily make ramen and we could start making a lot more money. Well, that opportunity cost means that the supply of, of one goes down and the supply of the other goes up. That if the profit on wheat goes up, then what we start to see is the supply of alfalfa goes down, the supply of wheat goes up because of that opportunity cost of production. So those are our shifters. Just like with demand, price doesn't shift the curve. Price is included on the curve. That's one of the variables that the curve already shows us. The curve shows us that when price changes, the quantity supplied is going to go up or go down because of profitability. Our other shifters, these are other factors that usually affect profitability, and they cause our curve to increase or decrease to the right or the left. All right. So that's supply. Tomorrow we'll be putting supply and demand together all on one model. So exciting times. All right. Have a good one.